So you like games like Robotron, Smash TV, and Total Carnage? Well, you came to the right place because I'm going to show you the top 10 twin-stick shooters on the PS4 with a physical release. So go ahead and get yourself some of those sweet-ass cherry Pop-Tarts and maybe a little cherry cola to go along with it. Let's get right into it. Well, hello, retro game players. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Marcus, and let's go ahead and start talking about the top 10 twin-stick shooters for PS4. Now, these all have a physical release. I am not including two awesome twin-stick style shooters, which I've already previously covered. I'll just tell you right now, Hotline Miami and also The Binding of Isaac are located in another video, so I'll link that right now. Go and check that out if you missed it. But these are all awesome games, and they're all fresh. So let's jump right in to number 10. All right, so the number 10 game on this list is developed by House Marquee, and they've actually made 3 out of the 10 games on this list, so they definitely know their twin-stick shooters. I'm talking about Super Stardust Ultra VR. Now, it's got a little bit of an extra twist in that it will work with a VR headset if you have it. There's like a whole other 3D mode to it. But at its core, this is a super arcade style based game. It reminds me of almost like Asteroids, and everything is taking place on this like globe, like this, 3D world type thing. And you're flying around that, blasting enemies, blasting boulders. You have 3 different types of weapons that are more effective on different enemies and boulders. And then at the end of each wave, or I should say at the end of the series of waves, there's a boss, and you gotta take the boss down and get to the next world. There are some other play modes like time attack and that kind of stuff, plus the VR mode as well. But generally speaking, out of the 3 that House Marquee did, I think this is definitely the weakest one, and that's why it's number 10. It's still worth checking out if you like this kind of stuff, so do that if it sounds interesting. Let's move up to number 9. Okay, the number 9 twin-stick shooter is a game that actually is rogue-based. Imagine that. It's crazy how much rogue games have taken over as far as a new play mechanic that's really popular. But anyway, this one is called Circuit Breakers. It's not an amazing twin-stick shooter, but it does have some charm. I think for me, the things that are coolest about it is that you can have quite a different selection of characters, and the enemies, when they explode and like the bullet physics, just feel really satisfying. The sound effects are cool, lots of pixels just flying everywhere. It is rogue based, but it's not random. So basically the levels are the same. And you basically start in one room and enemies just start going crazy at you, and you have to take them all out, and then you'll see an exit light up, and you can either take out the rest of the enemies for more points or move on. And then as you move on, you do unlock other things, including other characters. But right when you start, you do get to choose some different characters with different guns, including my favorite one has a laser beam, which is really wicked. And when you upgrade that thing, it just takes out tons of enemies. So the music's pretty cool too. It's not, it's not like amazing, but I'd say it's pretty cool. So there you go. That's number 9. Let's move up to number 8. So the number 8 game has actually been around for a long time as far as a series, and this is Geometry Wars 3 Dimensions Evolved. Now, this game has a little bit different twist as well. The graphics are really hyper 80s, which I really like. Super arcade style graphics. And the levels themselves are really varied. Sometimes you're in like weird vortexes, like tubes. One level that I got stuck on is called the Sausage. And there's just basically all these different style, worlds that you're going through. And then also bosses too. It's kind of weird how it plays out, it's like an adventure game, and you sort of choose these levels, and then as you select them, you have to beat the level with a certain amount of minimum points within the time limit. So the time limit might be 2 minutes, and you have to get 1,000,000 points, and that can be really hard. The weird thing is that you have unlimited lives. You can die as many times as you want, but clearly every time you do that, it sets you back and makes it harder to get, you know, the minimum time and the minimum points. So that's where you really want to try not to die, and it can be super, super challenging. Now, there are other unlocks, tons of different ships you can unlock, all with different attributes, so it's pretty awesome. I do think that the music is also very good. It's just really like kind of techno based, but it's like good techno, and so I would highly recommend this one if you guys are looking for something that's really frantic. I will tell you though, this is one of the harder ones in my opinion out of the whole list, so if you're looking for a challenge, this is the one that's going to make you have to replay each level over and over and over. Okay, let's move up to number 7.
Number 7.
Okay, so the number 7 game is actually an East Asia soft release. It's called Leap of Fate. And in this game, you actually start out with only one unlockable character. You have to play through to really unlock all the other 3, which is kind of a bummer. But what's cool is that by the time you get to the 4th character, you're definitely able to like handle the game and what it's throwing at you to handle that guy, because he is pretty crazy. But basically the 4 different characters are all sort of like, you know, have superpowers. And the thing that's really unique about this game is that it uses sort of like tarot cards. So when you first start a level, it is rogue based, and they'll throw out these random cards, and all the cards really affect how the game lays out. Like you might get a really easy, you know, hand laid out, and sometimes you'll get a really difficult hand laid out, but each card you go through unlocks another card set, and you can choose which way to go. So it's sort of like picking your path. And essentially what you want to do is go in, you have all these different powers, you have these shadow abilities, different power-ups, which are really cool. And the whole point though is to try and get to the boss, and then that'll get you, if you beat the boss, you'll get to level 2. And so that's also how you can unlock the other characters. At the start of every one of these missions, it'll tell you things that you can do to help unlock characters and unlock special feats and stuff. So anyway, it's actually a really fun game. The music gets a little repetitive, I would say, but overall the style is really interesting, and it's really thought out pretty good. I actually spent, I would say I played this for like 5 hours and really had no trouble like just kind of progressing through it, but it is really hard if you're going to try and make it to the upper levels, because it is rogue based. You know, you'll get a good character going, and then you get to the higher levels and it gets brutal. So there you go, that's number 7. Let's move up to number 6.
Number 6.
Alright, the number 6 game is another house marquee title. This one definitely is awesome. It's called Aliennation. Now this is the Chinese release, but it's the physical version, and this game is really pretty awesome. It's super frantic. When you start your missions, you can have multiplayers just drop in at any time, and so people will just join your game, and then honestly that's important because it helps you on some of these tougher missions. But the graphics are so good. Like honestly, the graphics are really good. Sound effects are great. This game is just, I don't know, they just did a great job of making this atmospheric world, and the bosses and just the different like creatures are all really freaky. And I don't know, I had a really good time playing this one. It's also really fun once you partner up with someone online, and you know, you guys just go around and have each other's back, and it feels like serious combat. You know, you do have some other moves like dashes and things like that, but generally speaking, you're just using your gun, you know, reloading and you know, trying to just survive. And if your partner dies, you can go and, you know, save them. And so anyway, it just gets really frantic. I honestly really like this game. If you're looking for something frantic and cool, and you like the isometric top-down perspective, this game is sick. So check this one out, Aliennation. Let's move up to number 5, but before we do, we've got a word from our sponsor.
Get ready to test your fighting skills against the world's most bloodthirsty terrorist. Get ready for the mother of all battles. It's time for Total Carnage. Total Carnage is a 1- or 2-player game with continuous buy-in. Playing the game all the way through should take about an hour. 4 lives are awarded at the beginning of the game, and 3 more for each additional credit. Use the left joystick to move, and the right joystick to fire, while guiding Captain Carnage and Major Mayhem through the various battlefields in pursuit of the General. Surviving the electric chair, visiting the warps, and destroying the General will compel players to keep returning until they achieve the ultimate victory and its ultimate reward. The Pleasure Dome. Let your players carry the war to its logical conclusion.
Total carnage!
Okay, so the number 5 game is one that actually sort of invokes memories of something like Dragon's Fury on the Genesis, which is a pinball game of all things, and Ghosts and Goblins. And I'm talking about Iron Cryptical. Now this is a really, really cool twin stick shooter. Honestly, this one is super old school, has a lot of nostalgic charm to it. The music is a little repetitive, but there's moments and hints that remind me of Kraftwerk. So if you guys know what Kraftwerk is, that's always pretty cool for me. But generally, you just go from room to room. It is a rogue-based, and pretty random-based, twin stick shooter. So things do get crazy. You never really know what to expect. You can have 4 people playing at once, which is really cool too. The artwork and the animation is just so reminiscent of like Gauntlet, and really, I don't know, Ghouls and Ghosts. It just reminds me of that. And then there's these bonus levels where it's like a side-scrolling stage where you can get power-ups and points and stuff like that, and that's also pretty classic. But generally, the fun part is, going through each level and trying to get to the boss at the end. And of course, the bosses at the end, once you figure out their patterns, are not so bad, but learning those can be tricky, as with most of these, rogue-style dungeon crawlers. But really, this one just has a lot of style. So if you're looking for something that's, going to push you to your limits in a retro way, this is going to be it. So definitely check this out. Let's move up to number 4. Okay, the number 4 game on this list is one that's really fun, and it's got a ton of customizability on it. And I'm talking about Neurovoider. You basically pick one of 3 different classes, and as you go, there are these like robot guys, but as you go, you can upgrade different parts of them, including different guns, one for your left arm, one for your right arm, helmets, body, legs. It all affects everything in combat. And you also have like a sword if you want, instead of a gun in your right hand. So you can kind of choose like what you want to, equip your little mech dude with. But you go around, you destroy these generators, and then you move on to the next level. In between each level, it does something else that's really cool. It'll tell you that you can choose between one of 3 missions and which one is going to be harder but have the most loot versus the easier one with the least amount of loot. And that's actually pretty cool. So it gives you like a risk versus reward type of a thing. And then eventually you'll get to a boss, and the bosses are really insane. I mean, really going to put you through your paces. So anyway, this game is really fun. Neurovoider really blew me away. I highly recommend you guys check this one out. So there you go. Let's move up to number 3. Okay, so the number 3 game on this list is one that I really had to think hard about because I really wanted it to be higher. But the thing is that this game will just suck an entire evening away from you so fast. It's so addicting. So if you like games like this, I'm telling you guys, pick this one up. It's Helldivers. And what's so cool about this is that not only do you feel like you're playing this overall campaign, but basically it's like you feel like you're a soldier enlisting in some sort of an army. And the army is being attacked or trying to take out this entire planet, or solar system really, from 3 different forces. And you get to choose which battles you want to do. Each battle does have different missions. Meanwhile, there's statistics of all the people online that are playing. plus just like, I think, things that are sort of made up to make it more intense, but it'll tell you like the casualties, you know, if your team is like winning, if it's losing, and then it'll tell you what your overall contribution is to the force as well. But as you choose one of these missions to go and embark on, as you're playing the game, I'm telling you one thing, it's so nice to have people drop in on your game from online because you need their help. Some of these levels are, you know, easy, and you can choose like which planets you want to do, and it'll tell you if they're like easy or really hard. But this game has everything. As you're playing the game, you can call in different airdrops, everything from like turrets to tanks to drones to ammo to like all this crazy stuff. And then there's different objectives on your map that you have to go and do for each level. But what's crazy is that the game has like this life cycle. So as you play it, it'll eventually end. The war will end, and you'll either win or you'll lose. And then the game kind of starts over, but you still have all your cool stuff. So anyway, Helldivers is so good. If you're into games like this, this is the one that has probably the most substance out of every game on this list. This is the one that has the most things that are just going to keep you busy. So anyway, check it out. Helldivers, I highly recommend it. But let's move up to number 2. Okay, the number 2 game is the third and final game from House Marquee. So they made the Super Stardust Ultra game. They also made Aliennation, but this game is amazing. And this is Nex Machina. Now, this is the smoothest controlling game in this list. The controls and the graphics are so good. This one could easily be the number 1 game. And I've played this so much. It is so fun to play. It is gorgeous to look at and play. It is one of the coolest twin stick shooters you can find. If I had to recommend just one game on this list, I'm telling you guys, this is one of the ones to pick up. The soundtrack is just insanely cool, and it's varied. The bosses are really cool. The different worlds are awesome, and then the different difficulties levels really make a difference. Like from easy, you have like unlimited continues, and you can just beat each level or each world and unlock new worlds, and that's really awesome. The second you go up to like regular or normal, man, it's like instantaneously harder. And then you have 99 continues to try and pull it off. But it just reminds me of like a mix of like, I don't know, man. It reminds me of like Total Carnage if it was super polished. There was another game on Sega Dreamcast called Expendables. This reminds me of that too. But yeah, House Marquee, they know what they're doing. This is an amazing game. Definitely check this one out. These guys have been making twin stick shooters for a long time, actually. Another one they have, I think, is called Resogun, but it's only digital, so it didn't make the list just based on that, since this is all physical releases. But there you go. That's number 2. Man, I can't recommend this one enough. But let's move up to the number 1 game of the twin stick shooters for PS4. All right, so that was 9 awesome games. We've only got 1 left. And this one is one that sort of took me by surprise. I didn't realize how good it was until I started to play it. The level of polish is really good. It's got tons of pixel art. The soundtrack is so jammin'. I believe parts of it are by Dose 1. And anyway, it's just super good. I'm talking about Enter The Gungeon. Now, Enter The Gungeon is a really cool twin stick shooter. It definitely follows the gameplay of like maybe The Binding of Isaac. It's a rogue dungeon crawler. You can start out with 4 different characters. They each have different attributes. And as you enter this gungeon, so to speak, a lot of the enemies are really varied, but many of them are sort of like bullets. They look kind of like bullets. And as you go through, it just becomes really frantic. You can roll to dodge bullets, which is super crucial that you learn that right away. You can hide behind pillars. You can flip over tables and kind of let them absorb some of the shots before they explode. So anyway, the frantic gameplay is really fun. And then you'll unlock areas, like there's a store you can buy things, and then you'll get to the area where the boss is, and you don't actually have to go through that door quite now. You could go back and explore and see if you can find, more power-ups or different guns, because as you find chests, you might get an upgrade, for some crazy gun that is amazing, and it'll really take out the bosses super fast. And so, you know, that's sort of the fun of playing these rogue games, is that you get this sort of upgrade for that one life. But yeah, and then the bosses are really crazy. They're all really fun, and you know, you'll learn their patterns and kind of get better at them, but man, at first you're just going to be overwhelmed. And so anyway, this game is so fun. I really had a great time with it. So Enter the Gungeon, check it out if you're looking for, you know, something that will keep you busy and also make you keep coming back for more. So that concludes this list. Which ones would you guys have added? Did I miss some? I know that I mentioned Resogun. That's a digital version or a digital game by the House Marquee guys. And then also Hotline Miami and Binding of Isaac are already in another video. So again, check the description for that. But I really appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for hanging out with me during this top 10 list. And until next time, you guys know what to do, right? You're going to keep that shit retro by playing Enter the Gungeon on the PS4 later on.